Hi, this is Bruce, the Last Nail, and we're back in Wyoming, and I'm at a site that's not that far from the last video that I did at the Fetterman site when we were going north. Now we're heading back home, but this is the Wagon Box Fight, and this was another fight between the U.S. Army and Red Cloud, Chief Red Cloud. This was like about a year later, and we're probably a few miles from where the Fetterman site was. So we're going to explore around here, and there's a placard just a little bit north of here. So this is the Wagon Box Fight, and this was another story that Terry C. Johnston wrote about in one of his Plainsman series books. They're good books. You might want to read them. I'm sure they're still in print. So let's explore. And here's the countryside. This is beautiful. We're pretty much at the foot of the Bighorn Mountains. So here's the placard for the Wagon Box Fight. In August 1867, a war party of hundreds of Sioux and Cheyenne warriors, led by Oglala Chief Red Cloud, left their camp on the Bighorn River, hoping to destroy military posts along the Bozeman Trail. Some of the warriors rode towards Fort C.F. Smith, while others approached Fort Phil Kearny, which is just north of here. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing. Hopefully I'll read this up long enough. But you can still read about the Wagon Box Fight. Probably Google it. And I'm sure Wikipedia has a pretty good write-up on it. Now, this is where the memorial is. There's Keeley. We're the only ones here, which I like. I like the I like being at one of these places where there's solitude and not too many other people. I don't know if really anybody even knows that much about this fight. The battle, which was August 2nd, 1867. And here's Keeley. She waves. There, I'm waving back.
Fight was before the other fight.
It was after. What do you mean? Yeah, what other fight?
The 1874, right?
Oh, you're talking about Little Bighorn?
Right.
Well, that was, Little Bighorn is probably
so I guess
close
you're just
to 80 miles north.
Right. But I guess you're just trying to understand because one of the Indian soldiers was the same one that was at Little Bighorn.
Yes.
And I guess you're just trying to understand their positions. So, what was this fight about? It was about that we were cutting down pine trees and the Indians just attacked us from nowhere?
Well, it's not quite that. You're looking at a protracted war between the U.S. Army and the Sioux and Cheyenne. They were allied. That's going over a 10-year period, and it's all over this whole, hundreds of square miles here, probably thousands of square miles.
I guess you're just trying to understand what positions precipitated it, because when you're coming from the Little Bighorn site, you think, how could we be so inaccurate? You know what I mean? How could we be so wrong to just attack people?
So this is a placard, A Fight to Survive. Captain James Powell and Lieutenant John Jennis. This is probably the wagon box itself, the area where the soldiers were holed up on. And since I would imagine, since you had soldiers that were killed here in battle, and of course you had the native people that were killed too, that this is another one of these areas that is hollowed ground. And this is probably, I think, the Wagon Box Corral. Okay, now this is the Wagon Box Monument. And you gotta excuse the bird excrement there. I tried to wipe some off, but I don't have anything to wipe it off with. But anyway, this is the Wagon Box Monument. And this is the monument. This monument is erected to perpetuate the memory of one of the famous battles of history. It is dedicated to the courage and bravery of 28 soldiers in Company C, 27th United States Infantry, and 4 civilians who held their impoverished fort made of 14 ordinary wagon boxes against 3,000 Sioux warriors under the leadership of Red Cloud for a period of 6 or 7 hours under continuous fire. The number of Indians killed has been variously estimated from 300 to 1,100. Wow. Now that, by the way, is a little different than the battle that happens 9 years later, 100 miles north of here at Little Bighorn. And then the following participated in this engagement. So I just wanted to say something. You know, Keeley started talking kind of about the big picture. And it's not that I cut Keeley off. I mean, the big picture of what I would call manifest destiny. there's the big picture of why did this happen to begin with. And that's the whole story of the white man taking over the Indian lands. Well, I'm not covering that. That's a whole different story. That's the forest. I'm just covering this individual battle. And this was an important battle where you have 28 or 30 or so men against 3,000 of Red Cloud's Sioux and Cheyenne warriors. Obviously, it's, the soldiers actually did very well, but we want to be cognizant that there were natives that are protecting their way of life. And many of them were killed. Here's Valor in attack. So this placard here is probably an attempt to talk about the native side of the story. And you always, in these battles, you always have to take both sides of the story. The aftermath, two views of victory. It says here, to the Indians, the Wagon Box Fight was also a victory. They had succeeded in destroying the side camp, burned several wagons, captured a large mule herd, and killed or wounded several of the enemy. And here, the Wagon Box Fight, continuing controversies. This is interesting because this is the plot of artifacts in the Wagon Box Fight. There's probably still artifacts that are still here. And here's another placard, Red Cloud's victory, with some bird poop on it. And this is more of the big picture of Wyoming, South Dakota, and Montana. So this area here, they actually tell a pretty good story on it. So this area here says no public access without written permission from the Fort Phil Kearny Bozeman Trail Association. This is where a lot of artifacts were found from the fight. And of course that's a little picnic area and the restroom up there. And then where those trees are back there, that's a private residence. And then this is so I just want to reiterate again, I'm not here trying to explain the big picture between the white and the red man. I'm here because of the historical significance of what happened specifically here. Now, if you look back this way on that ridge in the background, I don't know if you can see it, but that's about the area where the Fetterman fight had occurred a year earlier, and that was part of Red Cloud's war. And it's very beautiful here. Very beautiful area. You know, you just think, what a place to have to fight a battle. So back in Buffalo for Saturday morning for our trip home to Colorado, and here's the statue of the sheep and the sheepdog. Cool. Here's the Clear Creek Trail System. And here, Northside Creek, Buffalo, Wyoming. A creek runs through it. So, if this is called Clear Creek, and we have a Clear Creek down in Golden, Colorado. Oh, this is nice. A lot of water in here too. There must still be some snow melt up at the mountains. I'm sure that's where the water's coming from. You're getting some nice fall color too. Let's check the mural out. There's trout fishing. Here's some artwork. Oh, this is neat. Now, when I first saw this, I thought it was a mural on the side of the building. I didn't know it was, the building was left blank, and these were all sculptures. And here's a cool looking, this looks like a building frontage out of the Old West. Here's another front. Creekside Vacation Rentals only. And then over here, we got the Crazy Woman Art Gallery. I'm not really sure what the legend of the Crazy Woman is, but you kind of see that as a running theme around here. Here's the building front of the Occidental Hotel. I don't know if that's a hotel that's currently in use or if it's an old frontage. A lot of times they'll leave old names on buildings for purposes of to keep the character of the building, and then the building gets repurposed. Now he can be a Colorado Buffalo cowboy. There. So this is the sports lure store. Quite extensive sporting good things that they have in here, and I ended up getting a t-shirt. This is quite a main street for such a small town. Oh yeah, there's the catastrophe candles. Homemade pecan fudge. There's some artwork. Now, we came in this store earlier. This is the Longmire headquarters. I'm sure Longmire's not filmed or wasn't filmed here. But anyway, so this is the store that we were just in, the Bucking Buffalo Supply Company. And again, the Longmire headquarters, they seem to have a lot of things in here on the TV show Longmire. So I'll have to read up on that, find out what the background is. I always think the storefronts are interesting. There's a neat sign right here, the Century Club. Looks like a bar. Here's the 4th and Main Steakhouse, Bar and Grill. I like the wood, and it's fall, almost in October. Oh, they got some boots. They got some hanging boots. So they got some really interesting murals. That looks like a Colt. Probably what, a Colt 45. Here's a wagon wheel on fire. Here's really a beautifully painted building. There's the proverbial head of a steer. Then over here is northeast Wyoming with another Colt hanging down. Here's Clear Creek with the buildings across the street. There's Keeley. And look at that. Here's some more beautiful fall color. And this right here, now we're getting some reds. Let's walk up Clear Creek a little bit. This is a really interesting town. This Clear Creek is really beautiful. There's someone's, it looks like someone's backyard garden over here. Garden setting. Oh, this is just gorgeous over here. Look at this. Keeley said something really interesting. She said, going back to this building here, this used to be a prison. Probably a local jail. But going back to this poor guy over here, he looks like somebody who may have been jailed at one point, and he's looking out after everybody. That's really cool with the two shotguns. And look at the detail on the flower. This is definitely one of the better building murals I've ever seen. Very nice. Busy Bee. Breakfast, lunch, dinner cafe. Then we got the Continental Hotel, founded 1880. Oh, Occidental Hotel, not Continental. So I guess it is a running hotel. Got some flowers. And here we got the Occidental Saloon. So I wonder where all the saloon girls are. They got Wyoming whiskey. There's the Virginian Steakhouse, just as we're walking. Lolly's Sugar Shack cinnamon rolls. Oh boy. And here's Buffalo, Wyoming City Hall. It's probably where they have the jail now. Oh. So here we are inside the Occidental Hotel. It's just beautiful in here. Nice chessboard. Beautiful piano. There's one of the guests. That's like, what about a 6-point deer? Keely. This reminds me of the St. James Hotel down in Cimarron, New Mexico. Where they had a lot of famous guests, including Billy the Kid, who stayed there, and U.S. Grant after he was president. Oh, this is amazing. It was actually Keely's idea to come in here. I'm glad it was her idea, because my idea was to hit the car and go. But this is totally cool. I guess it's okay to video as long as you don't bother any of the people who are staying here. This is the Occidental Hotel here in Buffalo, Wyoming. So President Hoover stayed here in room 55. The President Hoover suite. Told you. Okay. Here's room 56. This is probably basically what the rooms look like. Here's a wall map of the United States. And a workroom. Wyoming. This even has the Indian reservations. The Crow, we were there yesterday, or not yesterday, but the day before. Wind River. Here's the Sioux, and I know the Sioux reservation has been broken up, so this must be an old map. And here's the Indian Territory, probably before Oklahoma became a state. And here's my home state, California, but I don't live there right now, in Colorado, specifically Boulder. This is the treaty signing at Fort Laramie, Wyoming, the 1868 treaty between William T. Sherman and the Sioux. Here's another one of this is the tea room. Look at that mirror, it's very ornate.
Or did somebody go pick them up? Bus? Dennis is the one that showed up at 9 and said, asked David if you were.
And this is what we're inside of right now. Now I'm going to go inside the bar. Wow, look at this. I'm going to walk around here. Here is, look at the bar itself. Talk about ornate. Boy, this is like the history of Buffalo, Wyoming. Wow, this is amazing. Oh, there's a picture of the Duke, Duke Wayne. And there's a bison head, a deer. There's a mountain lion up there. I'm going to go over by the door. The Virginian restaurant. So Herbert Hoover, President Hoover, stayed here. And Keeley is down at the other end. She's the one that kind of talked me into coming inside here. This is something I ought to try to do more often, is look for these old hotels. And there's the proverbial bar through the mirror. Here we go. There I am. Boy, look at that variety of whiskeys. There's Jameson, of course Jim Beam. Jameson would be Ireland. Look at that. This is amazing. It must have a band. Looks like a bluegrass band playing here. There you go, Occidental Hotel and Saloon, founded 1880. Boy, and being in northern Wyoming, boy, this place must have really, this place has got an amazing history. That don't look like a coyote. That looks like a wolf. Probably a gray wolf. There's even a leopard, a moose, another mountain lion, pronghorn there in the middle, or in the corner. There's a steer. Look at that. I would almost call that a china cabinet, but billiard room. Oh, it's interesting, they got carven speakers. I have a set of those too. No, I don't. I have realistic. And this looks like an old player piano, a mandolin, stand-up bass, a couple of acoustics. In fact, there's a Martin. Nice little, and here's a sunburst Epiphone. This is probably some of the people who have actually played here. John Anderson, not the John Anderson of Yes, of course, but that's the country singer John Anderson. And there's a ram. Oh, Keely's pointing to Joan Rivers. I think those are two Martins. Yeah, they are. I could tell by the headstocks.